This man wanted to test the glass of the car to see how strong it was. So he grabbed his pistol and fired a shot, but the bullet bounced off his leg. His thigh was pierced by a bullet, but there wasn't even a crack in the glass. He took off his clothes and wrapped them around the wound to stop the bleeding. The man's name is Tom. Just a few hours ago, he was a complacent thief. A golf ball was all it took to get inside the car, and then skillfully pried open the display screen. $500 in easy money. And the worst part is, he also peed on the car. As Tom was about to leave happily, he found that the door wouldn't open. He panicked. He started to pull hard on the door, but there was no response. He started to kick the glass in the window again, but he had forgotten that the glass was very strong. Tom slapped the steering wheel in anger. Then he gets a spanner out of the car. He tried to use the spanner to pry open the carpet, but when he did, he found a steel plate underneath. Even the signal inside the car was blocked. There was no way to call for help, and that was it. He was being held captive in a car. And then a woman walks by, putting lipstick on the car window. Tom looked at her excitedly, thinking he was going to be saved, but not long afterwards, he realized it was one-way glass. The people outside couldn't see inside the car. After a period of struggle, Tom was thirsty and hungry. He grabbed the remaining half bottle of Coke and drank it down. As the night wore on, he was left alone in the car, weeping in silence. A grasshopper in the car was very entertaining. It sang a song at the top of his lungs. Tom was furious. He was about to punch it to death, but then he thought, it's probably going to be his food for the next few days. So he gave up. The next morning, Tom, thirsty and desperate, he had to quench his thirst with a dew on the glass. For being too boring, he put the display back on again, listening to the music in the car, and rocked out to it. And that's when the phone in the car rang. He nervously pressed the answer button. It's the owner's phone. The thief had been locked in the car all day and all night. He was dying of thirst. In desperation, the owner called. It turns out the car had been stolen 28 times. Plus this one, it was the 29th time. So the owner had deliberately given the car a major makeover without his keys. There's no way to get out of here. When Tom heard that, he was instantly angry, shouting insults at the owner. The owner didn't even bother to talk to him. He just hung up the phone. Then the air conditioner blew cold air. Tom thought the owner was scared. He gave him air conditioning to make him feel better, but it wasn't long before the airspeed became more and more, and the temperature got colder and colder. Did the owner want to freeze him to death? Tom quickly removed the clothes from the wound, quickly put them on. Then he tears the newspaper into strips of paper and blocked the air vents one by one. Finally, he covered himself with foot mats. Just as Tom was shivering from the cold, the air conditioning suddenly turned off again. It was clearly the owner was controlling it remotely. Soon after, the owner called again. Tom asks for some water, but he had a very specific way of asking. The owner hung up again in anger. If he didn't find a way to get out, Tom was going to die of thirst here. And that's when a traffic cop stopped in front of the car. Tom was struggling in the car, but it was as if the car was immobilized. It didn't move at all. It turned out that the policeman was here to issue a ticket, and then he turned around and left. On the other day, it was raining outside the window. Tom imagines raindrops falling into his mouth. The owner of the car called again. He said there was a pipette in the trunk. There's water in there. Tom rushed to pry open the flap. He grabbed the pipette and used a Coke bottle to get water, but there was less than half a bottle, and it was a blue liquid. Tom didn't care what it was. He drank it all in one go, but water alone wasn't enough. He hadn't eaten in days. Tom's hunger has become unbearable. He ripped a page out of the car's manual. He squeezes it into a ball and put it in his mouth, began to savor it, although the paper looked cleaner than the blue liquid, but it was a bit hard to swallow. Tom had no choice but to use the ball to catch his own yellow liquid and swallow the paper ball. Just as he finished drinking it, suddenly a thief came to pick the lock. Tom took a look at his skills. Must be his first time picking locks. He felt anxious for him, but the lock didn't open. He was found out and got beaten up. At the end of that day, Tom was bored, pressing the start button over and over again. He didn't expect the car to start successfully. This man didn't want to live. He put the car in reverse gear, aimed at a pillar behind the car. Then he pushed the accelerator to the floor. He crashed into it. Tom is finally saved. He hadn't eaten in a week. He ran into the convenience store. He grabbed a burger and water and started eating. The security guards saw something was wrong. You don't eat without paying for it. Tom ignored him. He kept eating. The guard was immediately angry. He took Tom by the arm and prepared to take him to the police station. Tom got even angrier. He fired the shots at the guard. Suddenly, Tom woke up from his dream. It turned out that everything that had just happened was a fantasy. He couldn't take it anymore. It was better to live like this than to die. So he pulled out his gun. He put his mouth on the gun, but the gun jammed. Even God was playing a joke on him. Now he couldn't die even if he wanted to. The owner of the car taunted him from inside. He told him to look ahead. At that moment, there was a man standing in front of the car. He turned out to be the owner of the car. He pulls Tom out of the car, putting a gun to Tom's head. He asked him if he would dare to steal again. This scene was spotted by passive police officers. Tom saw this, desperately pleading for help. Soon, that incident attracted a large crowd of onlookers. When confronted by the police, the owner of the car shouted accusations. The reason there were so many thieves in the town, it was because the police were not doing their job. He just wanted to serve as a reminder. So he let Tom go, and then he smiled and went inside the car, and then he put a phone on the roof of the car that was counting down. After a violent explosion, the car was instantly destroyed. The owner of the car passed away. He wanted to use his death to raise public opinion so that the police would pay attention to law and order.